You said you had a magazine that you wanted to show. Tell me about that and show it. What is it about?
My new baby is called The Third Eye.
Mm-hmm.
And if you screen can see the sort of headlines
It
we
says,
do.
don't believe the lie that you are a Bantu. You are not. What does that mean?
Western academia and historians have made the African believe that we are Bantus. And
Okay.
I find that this term was coined by a German young man who came to live in South Africa. I'm speaking to you now from Zimbabwe, even
Okay.
though I'm a Ghanaian.
Yes.
Western history does not allow the African to look beyond himself to see where our ancestry comes from. Our ancestry comes from ancient Egypt. And when our ancestors lost the empire, they migrated. People have counted about 6 major migrations. Some went to West Africa, some came down through the Congo forest and populated this part of the world, East Africa, Southern Africa. And as they were coming down, some Western historians are calling this movement from ancient Egypt because they were staying in one place for a long time and moved. The movement from the forest areas of Nigeria, Cameroon, Gabon, coming down, they term that as Bantus. And the Africans have believed that they are Bantus, instead of being descendants of the ancestor from ancient Egypt. That is why I did a study. We published this one, and we told them that they are not Bantus. Their ancestry come from ancient Egypt.
So it's called The Third Eye, and
Yes.
you're saying that everybody was originally coming from ancient Egypt.
Most Black people today, their ancestry come from ancient Egypt.
Interesting. So you're saying that most Black people today, their ancestry come from ancient Egypt and they've migrated down to the western parts of Africa and so on, but then they stay in these places for a long time before the migration continues.
Yes.
They're then given this name Bantu. Isn't it true that there is like differences in African people? Like there's genuine differences. You know, the way the West Africans look is very different from the way the Fulani look, or the Berbers, or the East Africans. And isn't that genetic differences? Doesn't that mean that they are different people?
We were from one stock, ancient Egypt and Nubia. And you know, migration took thousands of years to come. Over time, people have changed, but sometimes even the languages. When I came to live in Zimbabwe from the UK, because my wife is a Zimbabwean and I am a Ghanaian, our language in Ghana is called Akan. The language in Zimbabwe is called Shona. And then I started hearing Akan words in Shona. Same pronunciation, same meanings.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was asking myself, how come between Zimbabwe and Ghana, you get a good 7,000 kilometers? So how come the people of the Akans of Ghana share similar words with the same meanings with the Shonas? And if you trace it, you find that our ancestors came from one source once upon a time. And then when we lost the empire and we migrated and the Akans went west and the Shonas came through the Congo forest down, we lost many things, but there are still some stubborn common words that are still in both languages. Our faces may look different, but the bloodline and the genes are quite solid from ancient Egypt.
Okay. So it is. So I guess the hypothesis you're putting forward in this book is that ancient Egypt was the cradle, was where it started from.
Yes.
Before we moved down.
Yes.
Huh. But so why do we believe that then? Why do you think ancient Egypt is the place that we started from? Why not Ethiopia or Morocco or anywhere else on the continent? Why do you think ancient Egypt was that main place that that most of us started from and then migrated from?
Because studies have shown that that's where we started. That's where the people migrated from. There are
Okay.
professors in the USA, in Britain. There is an interesting person that I should point to, and he's Ghanaian. His name is Ayikwe Ama.
Ayikwe
Ayikwe,
Ama.
yes, is one of the greatest writers Africa has had. He's written a lot of novels and books, And Ayukwe
Is it
studied
is it
Egyptology.
still alive?
He's still alive. He lives in Senegal at the moment, where he set up a school for writers. But
Hmm.
Ayukwe is the first African Egyptologist that I've seen who have taken time to go into the language of the ancient Egyptians, look at their literature, and he did his biography in 2006, which is called the Eloquence of the Scribes. And Ayiko is talking about what he found in studying the ancient Egyptian literature, and he came across common Akan words,
Hmm.
same meanings, and same pronunciations like the ancient Egyptian language. So there is a
Interesting.
continuum from ancient Egypt with these descendants of black people in West Africa and in Southern Africa, in East Africa, all across the continent. But the Africans, instead of researching and knowing where we come from, just
Mhm.
believe people like this German young man, what is his name, who called them Bantus. So the Africans believe that they are Bantus, but they are not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cool. So basically, there is a I would say maybe a community of African Egyptologists now after Aikwe, or is he still the only one um looking at things from an African perspective?
I think he's the only one that I've known who has taken time to really
Mm,
study the the the, the ancestry of the modern Black African.
amazing. So
Yes,
this book, what's it called again? The Third Eye. This book, The Third Ide. Did you write it, or were you the editor of it?
it's not actually a book as such. It's a magazine, yeah, but
Yeah.
here it's difficult to get the real magazine paper to print. So we use thick paper, and it comes
Hmm.
out like a book.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
But it's a magazine.
it's a magazine that we do every 2 months. And
Okay. So you're
I'm the editor of this one.
mhm.
Yeah.
Amazing. So this is you basically continuing your, I'd say, your position as editor, because before this you were the editor of the New African magazine for years
Yes.
and years and years.
Yes. Which I have a copy here.
Yeah.
And if I roll up the camera, we did this issue. Did Columbus discover America? And
Hmm.
it says
Africans have been there before him.
Africans had been there before him. It's another major topic that Africans have not really looked at. Our ancestors from West Africa traveled to the Americas and did wonderful work that they immortalized them in huge statues, stone statues, which they
Mm.
called. Uh, this one here was found in Mexico, which
Yeah.
yes. So the Africans should take time and look at their history.
Definitely. So
Hmm.
so that's actually pretty interesting, because I think when I was working on basic Nigerian history series, I came across something similar to that. Like I think it was one of the Mansas of the Mali Empire, just
Yes,
before Mansa Musa. I forget what his name was, but he was the one that decided to create, like, he spent his entire reign creating ships, and then
yes,
he sailed with those ships west,
yes.
but then we never heard back from him. So we don't know if he made it or if he didn't make it. But I'm
He made it.
assuming we are assuming that he made it, because there are evidence, such as the stone statues that you've mentioned, and that
Yes,
there evidence from those who were in the Americas that, oh, people have been here before.
exactly.
Um, so yeah, that is actually a pretty interesting things.
Hmm.
So yeah, sorry.
Hmm.
Sabira, how you feeling? Do you have any questions so far?
No, I'm quite impressed that, yeah, with the work that you've done so far and the fact that this knowledge is out there for people, you know, people actually focusing on the history of Black Africa,
Hmm.
I think is really important because, as we know, in Western education, there is no insight into this, especially, Columbus being the first to discover America, for example. Whereas,
Discover.
yeah, discover in quotation marks, by the way. Yeah, it definitely needs to be highlighted more.